The river is the clan's life and its death. It gives them fat, silver-bellied fish and cool water, but it also carries the scent of their small fires downstream, an invitation to the things that hunt in the dark. Today, the water is low, exposing a sun-bleached sandbar in the middle of the current. It is on this sandbar that the mystery began. Kale, young and quick, saw it first. He points with a spear tipped in jagged flint, his knuckles white, their morning task of gathering river clams forgotten. They fade back into the thick, humid ferns that line the bank, their bodies melting into the shadows. The beast they call the river serpent is there. It is a Spinosaurus, a titan of the waterways, but it is not hunting. Its massive sail, a ridge of bone and scant, aurer than a man, slices the morning air. Instead of stalking prey, it is engaged in something incomprehensible. It nudges the bleached white ribcage of an unchopped wristies, a giant sawfish with its long crocodile-like snout. The movement is not the crude shove of a predator tearing at a carcass. It is delicate, precise. The Spinosaurus pushes the bones a little to the left, then steps back, its head cocked as if judging a piece of work. It has been doing this for 3 days. The sandbar is littered with bones, skulls, vertebrae, ribs, not the chaos of a feeding ground, but a deliberate spiraling pattern. The clan has seen predators feed their entire lives. This is something else entirely. It is an act of creation, and it terrifies them more than any kill. While the others see only a monster gone mad, the shaman, Mara, sees a message. Her face, etched with the lines of summon worry, is pressed against the damp leaves. Her eyes do not hold the same fear as the others. They hold a dangerous, consuming curiosity. She watches the creature's immense, 3-clawed hand gently pick up a vertebra and place it into the spiral. She has seen this pattern before, in the unfurling of a fern frond, in the shell of a river snail, but never made by a living thing as an act of will. This strange and silent ritual under the baking sun feels like a turning point in the long, brutal story of hominid history. It is a question asked by a world that does not speak their language. At night, it is worse. When the twin moons, the mother and child, hang full and bright in the sky, the Spinosaurus does not sleep. It wades into the shallows until the water is a black mirror. It lifts its great head and lets out a sound that is not a roar, not a hiss, but a low, vibrating hum that travels through the water and the stone, and into the very marrow of their bones. It is a call to the pin-percess of light above. Mara sits at the mouth of their cave, long after the others are asleep, and listens to the serpent's hymn. She watches it track the movement of the stars in the water's reflection, its head moving in slow, measured arcs. It is reading the sky. It is counting the bones. And she, alone in the darkness, feels the first, terrifying flicker of an idea. This creature is not just an animal. It is a teacher. Mara's obsession becomes the clan's burden. She neglects her duties, the gathering of healing moss, the reading of omens in smoke. All her energy is focused on the riverbank. She brings back smooth, flat stones and bits of charcoal from old fires. Kel watches her, his jaw tight. It is a beast. Mara, he says, his voice a low growl of frustration. It is bigger, and it is stronger. That is its power. We should be moving the clan, not watching it play with bones. He speaks for the others. Their fear of the river serpent is simple and practical. Mara's fear is something else, something they cannot grasp. She sees its power not in its teeth, but in its purpose. It knows the patterns, she tells them, her eyes wide with a fervor that borders on madness. It knows when the moon will be full. It knows which stars return. This is knowledge. This is a power greater than a strong jaw. She faces them in the flickering light of the communal fire, the shadows dancing on the cave walls behind her. She holds up a piece of charcoal. We cannot run from it. This valley is our home. We must show it that we are listening. The clan elder, a man named Bor, with skin like and leather, looks from Kayla's pragmatic anger to Mara's wild-eyed faith. He sees the gnawing hunger in the bellies of the children. The hunts have been poor. Other predators, perhaps displaced by the Spinosaurus, are pushing into their territory. They are trapped. Desperate, Biawa nods a slow, tired gesture of a leader with no good options. Do as she says. The first act of mimicry is a failure. They try to arrange the bones of a kill in a spiral on the cave floor, but it feels hollow, a child's game. The power is not there. The serpent does not perform its ritual for them. It performs it for the world, for the sky. They must not simply copy the action. They must capture its spirit. That night, she drags Kale to the deepest part of the cave, to a wall smoothed by millennia of seeping water. She gives him the charcoal. Make it shape, she commands. Show the stone what we see. He resists, but she pushes his hand against the wall. His fingers, calloused and strong from shaping flint, are clumsy. He draws a line, then another. A jagged peak for the sail. A long snout filled with angry scribbles for teeth. It is a crude thing, a shadow born of fear. But when they hold a torch to it, it lives. For the first time, these ancient humans have torn an image from the world and trapped it in the dark, their breath misting in the cold air. They expand their use of this newfound primitive technology. Mara begins scratching patterns onto a large, flat slate. The star paths she sees the Spinosaurus track in the river's reflection. She connects the dots, trying to decipher the serpent's celestial map. The clan works in shifts, some watching the beast, others carving its image deeper into their home, smearing it with red ochre and black manganese, until the walls are a gallery of their singular obsession. They are recording. They are interpreting. They are trying to weave themselves into the story the river serpent is telling the sky, hoping that by echoing its rituals they might be spared from its brutal reality. The rains come late and heavy, turning the river into a brown churning serpent of its own. The Spinosaurus' sandbar is swallowed by the flood, its bone spiral washed away. The beast itself retreats to deeper waters, its low hum silenced. But a new sound takes its place, a distant, rhythmic thunder that has nothing to do with the storm. Kale and his hunters return with grim news. A migrating herd of Pachyrhinosaurus, thick-skulled and foul-tempered, is moving down the valley, stripping the land bare. Their path will take them directly past the clan's cave, a stampede that would crush their home and everyone in it. Panic, cold and familiar, settles over the clan. Kale begins sharpening spears, preparing for a fight they cannot win. We stand and die, he says, his voice flat. But Mara sees it differently. She unrolls a large, stiff hide where she has been copying the patterns, the star maps, the bone spiral. For weeks, she believed it was a divine language. Now, seeing the valley's immediate peril, a different truth strikes her, as sharp and brilliant as lightning. The stars were not a god, they were a clock. The river was not a mirror for worship, it was a map. She traces the path of the star cluster they call the Great Horn with a charcoal-stained finger. The serpent always hummed when it was low on the horizon. It is the same time of year the herds always come. She looks at her crude copy of the bone spiral. It wasn't a prayer, it was a diagram of the river's currents and sandbars, a predator's meticulous study of its hunting ground. The beast was talking to the sky. It was reading its world with an instinct so profound it looked like magic. The serpent knows the path of the herd, she says, her voice shaking with the weight of the revelation. She points to a spot on her map, here, where the river bends. The water is deep, and the current is fast. It is the one place the herd must slow down to cross. The serpent was marking its ambush point. Kale stares at her, then at the frantic drawings. It is a desperate gamble based on the scribbles of a madwoman obsessed with a monster. But the thunder of the approaching herd is growing louder. They have no other choice. They follow her directions, not to fight the herd, but to use the land against it. They gather loose boulders and fallen logs near the crossing Mara identified, creating a crude but effective barrier on the near bank. The ground trembles. The herd appears, a moving wall of horns and muscle. They see the blocked passage and with bellows of frustration are funneled away from the cave, down a steeper, rockier path along the far side of the river. The clan watches from the high cliffs, their hearts pounding in their chests as the danger passes them by. They did not defeat it with spears, but with a thought. They look at Mara not as a mad shaman, but as the one who learned to read the world's secrets. The first true lesson of human evolution was not learned from looking inward, but from having the courage to study the terrifying intelligence of a monster. The foundations of paleontology were laid not in science, but in the desperate need to understand the mind of a killer. They did not conquer the beast, they never could have. But by observing its terrifying, alien intellect, they had conquered something far more important. Their immediate cycle of hunger and fear now held a map of the seasons and a chart of the stars. The cave wall, once a blank stone canvas, was now the first page in the long, bloody history of human foresight. The Spinosaurus, the river serpent, remained a creature of immense power, an apex predator they would always fear. But it was no longer a god. It was a symbol of a world that operated on a brutal, elegant logic they had just begun to understand. Their art was not worship, it was data. Their rituals were not faith. They were the first flawed experiments in the scientific method. This small clan of early humans, huddled in their cave, had seen the mind of a dinosaur, and in its reflection, for the very first time, they had caught a glimpse of their own. The story of survival is not written by the strong, but by those who learn to read the patterns in the shadows cast by giants. Another beast is watching from the trees, and this one does not look at the stars, it looks at them.